Welcome in, LSU fans, to another edition of the Go 24/7 podcast. My name is Bryce Koon, joined alongside Mikie Mahtook. Mikie, we appreciate the time, man. You and I were just talking. It's one of the better weeks of the college baseball season. You get to turn the TV on, leave it there, do what you need to do around the house, around the office, and just a rolling week of college baseball.
Yeah, it feels like everybody talks about March Madness. Obviously that's got its own thing, but this is kind of the baseball version of March Madness. You got SEC networks got baseball all day, ACC networks got baseball all day.
Mhm.
I don't want to shortchange any of the other conferences, but those are really the two conferences that you're really going to focus on because those are the top two conferences in all of baseball. And then you got obviously regionals next weekend, super regionals, and so on. So it's an exciting time if you like college baseball. College baseball has been on this like super upward trajectory of popularity, and
Mhm.
and and so it's nice to see, and it's been a fun time.
I wanted to ask you this because this is a fun conversation. Before I came down to LSU, I covered the ACC, went to Charlotte. Beautiful, obviously. You know a lot about that stadium, that area. Is Hoover still better? Is the Met better than what they got going on in the ACC over in Charlotte? I guess
All
they're in
right,
Durham this
so
weekend, but yeah.
yeah, so I love Durham. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in Durham playing for the Bulls, and the stadium's awesome. The area around it's awesome. But in my mind, like, and I'm biased because I played in Hoover, but like
Yeah.
you get it feels like you are in travel ball 10, 11, 12-year-old World Series again, right? You're in these hotels. All the teams are in the hotels. You see them kind of getting ready. They're going to the game. They come back from the game. It's just you kind of have that buzz of like, hey, you're in, you win, you're in, you lose, you're out, and it's just you're trying to win the World Series, kind of like when you're 11 or 12. And so
Yeah.
the excitement of Hoover is great. Obviously, the stadium, it's a big stadium. I'm sure there's nicer stadiums and there's newer stadiums, but the stuff around it and the competition that you're playing, I don't think there's anything better. To me, look, winning the World Series is extremely hard, and I
Yeah.
think it's the hardest thing to do in baseball is winning the national championship. But navigating the SEC tournament, competition wise, maybe even harder. I
Yeah.
mean, you got the top talent playing against each other, day in and day out. You don't have an opportunity to lose and come through the losers bracket anymore. So there's a lot of stakes at it. And there's a lot of teams out there that, some are trying to make the tournament. If you're A&M,
Yeah.
Kentucky, they lost last night. So, I don't know what their status is, but, you have teams trying to make the tournament. And you have teams trying to get a regional host. And we've seen throughout the course of this SEC season how important home field has been for a
Mhm.
lot of these teams. And so, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, all the Ole Miss, all those teams are trying to position themselves to host the regional. And so there's a lot at stake and it's a lot of fun. And look, if you're a player, it's all about the team. You got to do what you got to do for the team, but you're going to have more scouts in the stands looking at you and watching you in this tournament than you've ever had before because
Yeah.
you have the most talent in the country here. And so, it's an opportunity for these guys who are good, maybe didn't have the year that they wanted to, rise up in these situations and kind of, solidify their draft or put themselves in a position for next year in the draft.
Yeah, no, Hoover's an awesome place, and like you said, I like how you mentioned it's got the travel ball feel. Like you're waiting for the game in front of you to get done. You get off the
Yep.
bus, and maybe you got to sit in the stands, wait a little bit. Stay warm off to the side, and it's a
Yeah.
fun atmosphere of a kids' game that we all love, and kind of get you back to that. I think coming into this week, it's interesting to kind of talk from an LSU perspective of, I don't know about the guys on and fans and viewers on your show, but on our side of things over at Go 24/7, there's a lot of conversation about what needs to be accomplished. How much do you really worry about what needs to be accomplished? And look, you've been in those situations. Jay Johnson's been in these situations. I mean, look, coaches are not ever going to say we're not trying to win. Like that is never going to happen. But I guess if you could peel back the curtain a little bit, what do you truly kind of think is the goal of this week and weekend, other than obviously staying healthy for LSU, as obviously feel like they have a top 8 seed and kind of going into a regional next weekend.
Yeah. And I think I say this, I don't want to say the L word and say it is a absolute, sure thing, but I think they've positioned themselves really well. I mean, they're the number one team in the country.
Mhm.
I don't think they have to win to host to be in that top 8 national seed. But what I do think is more important for them is, and look, Jay was on our show on Monday. They absolutely want to win, especially
Yeah.
the way the new format is. It allows them not to overextend their bullpen, allows them not to put any added stress on their roster to try to go and win 5 games, 4 games to win the championship. Now it's kind of a weekend series. You play
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You kind of stay in that rhythm. You kind of stay in that routine. And so I think the way the it's set up this year, I think, is a little bit easier for these teams that had the double bye. Say, okay, you go out there, we keep doing what we've been doing, have a chance to win it. That's great, right? We're not
Mhm.
going to put ourselves in a bad position going into the regional. But I think, if you're looking at it from LSU's perspective, I think more importantly than just winning it, obviously that's what they want to do. But I think they have to get through the first game, not for seeding purposes, not for any of that, just so that these guys can continue to stay sharp, right?
Yeah.
You want to get through Friday, allow Kay Anderson to go his 8,500 pitches, whatever he's going to have them go. You want to win that game, and then you want Ianson to be able to throw. And you want to be able to get these bullpen guys on some innings and some pitches. You want to get your offense some more bats because they're starting to kind of feel a little bit. You want to get Milam some more at bats because he's probably the one guy in the lineup right now that hasn't really started to kind of get hot. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously you saw Jared Jones last week. He hit 3 home runs in the weekend. Obviously Ethan Fry's been hot. Jake Brown's been hot. Curriel got back on track with a 3-hit game last weekend, and so you're starting to see the lineup start to swing it a little bit better. And Milam's the one guy that has shown he can do it. This is the time last year that he got really hot.
Yeah.
And so you want to see him. You want to keep giving these guys at bats and pitches and keep them sharp for next weekend, right? I mean, we've seen it. I keep making the comparison with Major League Baseball when they added the extra wild card weekend. Over the last few years, you've seen those wild card teams who just continue to play end up beating the teams or playing a lot better against these teams that had these longer breaks. Baseball is
Yeah.
such a rhythm timing game that sometimes too much time off isn't good. And so, for me, it's yeah, they want to win. I think that's important, but winning that first game and at least having 2 games, I think that's a huge deal.
I think what I love too about it is that securing, the double bye gives you an opportunity. You kind of hinted this. You don't have to do anything crazy with your rotation. Like you can keep guys on regular rest. We know pitchers are creatures of habit. How important is that guy for like Kate Anderson, Anthony Ianson, and whoever you would start on a Sunday? How important is that just to kind of know, hey, nothing has to change for me. Like I can watch some
Yeah.
baseball. I can go be in my normal routine. I can get my bullpen in. How big is that from a psyche standpoint?
Yeah, I think it's huge. Look, they've done really well throughout the course of the year of when they had Thursday games and moving up. The only time they did not do that was last week.
Mm,
And I think that you saw Jay say, okay, we're going to position ourselves for the postseason. We're not going to change our Friday, Saturday rotation spots, and we're going to basically do what we do on Sunday on Thursday.
yeah.
And it worked out. The bullpen pitched well. I
Yeah.
don't think that it wasn't a bad deal. It was just I don't think the offense scored enough that they needed to. I think some base running mistakes kind of got them out of that game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's huge to be able to have these guys stay in their routine, stay in there, have their bullpen schedule be the same, and allow them to say, hey, this is what you're going to pitch on Friday, first round of the regional. You're going to throw on Saturday, and hopefully, whoever else you need on Sunday. Because up until you get to, I guess the regional is really the last time that you can't just win 2 out of 3, right? Like if you have to win that, you have to win the championship regional game. And so, supers you can win Friday, Saturday, and you can sleep and you go to Omaha and the way Omaha's set up, you can continue. If you win the first couple games, you get a week off. I mean, a week off, not a week off. You get a couple of days
A
off.
couple of days more. Yeah. Feels like it.
Yeah, and so you're able to set yourself up for like that championship series. Now, obviously, Omaha, you're going to need 3 or 4 guys, 5 guys to really step up, behind your number 1 and number 2 guys. But yeah, I think it's important for these guys to stay in their normal routine. Nothing changes. You're in a ballpark, and I think for Kate Anderson, I think the one thing is he's been really, 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 really good this year, right? And the only times he's really given up runs have been homers.
Yeah.
And Hoover's a very big park, and so some of those solo homers are not going to be solo homers anymore. And so, I'm really looking forward to watching how he pitches in that atmosphere. I think he's going to be electric. And then, obviously Ianson has been, numbers wise better than Anderson. I know Cade's going to be a top 5 pick. I've been a Cade Anderson fan since the minute he stepped on campus. Like, he is as elite as they get, but if you go look at numbers, Ianson has a sub-3 ERA. He's got 2.83 ERA in the SEC. He's 7-2. You only have 10 starts in the SEC. 7-2 in those starts. He was second team all SEC. Cade Anderson was first. I think they both should have been first. Obviously, you can't do that, but but having those two guys there in that stadium, I think you're going to see them have really good performances. They're going to be extremely efficient, and then once you get to Sunday, once you get to that championship game, anything can really happen.
Offensively, Mikie, it's something where I think fans have maybe clamored for more at times and maybe been a little disappointed with
Really?
the lack of consistency. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Well, I've seen a little bit. Yeah. I've seen it a little bit around. I guess, look, you want to be playing your best baseball this time of year. Like, you want to be trending. You don't want to be the team that peaks in March and April. Like, you really want to start turning things on probably the 1st of May that could lead you to a really deep run.
Right.
When you get to Hoover, you mentioned it's a big ballpark. How much do you take away if the offense goes out there? And we can talk about the potential matchups after this, but whether it's an Auburn, a Mississippi State, or a Texas A&M, like, if that Friday they just kind of struggle, is it more? We know the fans are going to overreact, right? Like to it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But do you take a lot away from that, or is it more of just kind of a singular data point that you say, hey, let's just if you lose that game, let's just get back home, get back to Alex Box, and get ready for a regional?
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in it if you lose it, but I will say this: the way the offense has been structured for the year, I think sets them up nicely for Hoover. They haven't relied big on the long ball, right? They're not leading the country in homers. It's not like Georgia where, like, man, they're hitting a bunch of homers in Athens, and then you go on the road to a bigger stadium and those homers maybe not homers anymore.
Yeah.
They've been able to generate runs different ways. They've been able to move the baseball, safety squeezes. Now you still have the ball. You still have guys hitting homers. When it's all said and done, if they make their run home you're going to have 5-6 guys on the team with double-digit homers, I believe. You already have 3. No, you have 4, really. I think you have 4 guys with homers. I think you're going to have, Jake Brown. If they're going to continue to throw righties, Jake Brown, I think, is going to be able to get to double digits. Currell's got 6. He's going to have an outrageous postseason to get there. But, you have guys that are able to get to double-digit homers. So you have enough thump in the lineup, right? But they hit a bunch of doubles. They take extra bases. They move guys over. They're able to generate runs. They score a bunch of runs, and it's not just by the homer. And so in a field like this, with a competition this way, I think their offense sets up pretty well for this tournament. And, I wouldn't put too much stock into it if they don't come out there and score a bunch of runs. Because, look, you're not going to – the days of scoring, 12, 15 runs in a game right now, it's postseason baseball. Like, maybe the first game of a regional, but even then, you're going to face that team's best guy. They know what's at stake, and so it's going to be closer to, like, hey, this is like, professional baseball. You're going to have to go there. Every single out matters. Every single mistake matters. And I think the way they've played offense all year, I think it sets themselves up really well for the postseason. Yeah, do they want to hit more homers? Of course. Do they want to score a bunch of runs? Of course. But they have shown that they can get guys in different ways, and I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, like it's more balanced. And I go back to, I was out in Frisco, I guess, God, it feels like a year ago now, but just the way they were able to do things so differently and playing in a different ballpark, in a minor league park that, plays a little bit different, something they're not accustomed to. Just the way they manufacture things, I think is a good sign for them. You take a look at this bracket. What was kind of your initial reaction from the LSU draw and kind of the pool that they have? Obviously, as we're recording this, about 15 minutes from now, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. It's going to be a grind, which is 5 games today. They got postponed from last night. The winner of that will play Auburn, who the winner of that game will play LSU. If you're an LSU fan, you want another crack at Auburn, or how do you what would you like to see, or does it really matter to you?
I think when you look at the way the bracket was constructed, you have 2 of the 3 teams that you could potentially play, right? Like, you did what you need to do against one of them, but you lost against A&M on the road, which you probably all 3 games could have gone either way, right? And you lost against Auburn on the road, which most of those games can go either way.
Yeah.
And so, you have the opportunity to kind of right the ship against two teams, and you get to play them in a neutral site, not necessarily at home, but not on the road.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's exciting for those guys. And look, whoever you play in that round, I think it's going to be Auburn, because I don't think A&M, they can't throw Prager. I don't believe they can throw him from Friday to it's Wednesday now. Yeah, like it's just I don't think that they're going to be able to throw him on short rest, and so I don't really know if they're able to get through 2 games to get to LSU. So I think you're going to play Auburn, and I know those guys from a competitive standpoint want to beat them because Auburn swept them on the road. It was one of those things where they felt like they had something. They probably could have won 1 or 2 games, and they didn't. And look, whatever it happens, you're going to play a team like Auburn has a really good RPI. So it's not going to hurt it's not really going to hurt your RPI one way or the other. It can only help it if you win. And so, I think they're looking forward to playing them. Obviously, they're not looking ahead to who they have the luxury of just kind of sitting back and waiting and seeing who comes to them. But, I think they're excited to kind of right the ship on some losses. And, Auburn's playing really good baseball, and it's going to be a fun game. They get to play the night game, which is really awesome. And you kind of get to see everything. And, the longer you're in there, the more you kind of feel the atmosphere and you kind of see it, the better I feel like they're going to play. So, it's going to be a fun, interesting Friday night game. But I don't think it really matters who they play. But I know 2 of those 3 teams that they really want to get some revenge on.
Talked about atmosphere. You get the night game. You get LSU, who we know the fans travel like crazy, and especially Hoover. And then you're playing Auburn, who's an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I think that could really be like peak SEC tournament type of vibes there on Friday night if that matchup takes place. Last one, man, before we get you out of here. You kind of hinted at this a little bit, but I wanted to ask you, who's kind of a catalyst that maybe needs to take off? You mentioned Milam, and kind of what needs to happen if this team's going to make a deep run. I feel like they have all the things there. It comes down to playing complementary baseball, but who's a guy that you're watching like, hey, if this guy picks it up, then it kind of blows the expectations that we may have right now out of the water?
Yeah, look, offensively, obviously, if I don't want to say if, I'm going to say once Milam gets going, because it's, he's going to happen. I don't know if hopefully it happens now, but if he gets going, now you have a lineup there's really no weak spots. You have, 1 through 9, you have guys that are going to be able to drive guys in, get on base. The one guy in the lineup that really hasn't, taken off has been Braswell, but at the same time, Braswell's controlled the bat really well. So he has a lot of, he's able to move guys different ways. But if you get Milam going, now you don't really have a weak spot in that lineup. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on the opposing teams. And then pitching wise, with the rotation, the bullpen, Chase Shores continues to do what he's been doing, right? It finally feels like he feels comfortable. It feels like he has a lot of confidence in his arm. Right now, coming off of Tommy John not pitching for 2 years, if you haven't gone through it, it's hard to kind of understand the mental battle that is, right? You look at the velocity that he throws. Yeah, his velocity's been great, but that's not the scary part of coming back from Tommy John. The scary part's the breaking balls. That's what strains the elbow a lot. That's what, that's the one. It's like, okay, am I good, right? Can I trust it? And 4 or 5 outings ago, he started breaking. Like, if you remember all year, it's been yank the breaking ball, yank the breaking ball, yank the breaking ball. Well, about 4 outings ago, he broke off at like an 89-mile-an-hour slider outside, down away for a strike. And it was the first time I was like, damn, this is like, that's the old Chase Shores. That's conviction. And it feels like once he threw that and he just let it go, it finally felt like, all right, I got confidence in my arm. Like, I feel good. I'm back. And ever since that outing, he has really pitched really well. And his breaking ball has been a weapon. And, he throws a hard fastball, has a little bit of run to it. And so, when you have that second pitch, it makes that 100-mile-an-hour fastball a lot more difficult to hit. Anybody can hit 100 if you know 100's coming. And so I think for me, him progressing and him continuing to be that guy is extremely important. And look, I wouldn't be shocked if you saw him go into that third star role again at some point in the postseason, kind of like Thatcher Hurd did in 2023. Thatcher was a starter, struggled, won the bullpen, kind of found it, came back in the postseason as a starter, and that was a big reason why they made that run. And so you're going to have to rely on a third starter at some point. And depending on how the first two games go, I wouldn't be shocked if you saw him get back into that rotation. He's not going to announce it. Jay's not going to announce him as a third starter, right? But you've seen him get, even when he got taken out the starter role, you've seen him get put in some really high leverage situations. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he does with him. But I think if he continues to do that, I think that's a huge deal for LSU. And the young guys just continue to develop. You see Cooper Williams, first guy out the pen for lefties. He's been really good. Connor Ware's been pretty solid. You can get an inning or two from him. Maverick Rizzi's been a lot better. Mm-hmm. So all those guys, if those guys continue to progress, I think it's going to be really good. But Chase Shores to me is the key. If he can keep doing that and be that guy, I mean, you don't have nobody's got a third guy like that in the country.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you get to regional, super regional, there's nobody matching up with that.
No. So that, to me, that's the big key with the rotation of pitching staff is if he continues to do that, which I think he will, you're going to see this team. They've been great. Like they're the one team in the country, but you're going to see this rotation kind of pitch even better than they have because you have that third guy that's elite.
Mikie Mahtook, we appreciate him joining the show, man. Let people know where they can find Mic'd Up and when you guys are going live and everything.
Yeah, anytime, man. I appreciate you. We're live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays, 1 to 2-ish on Fridays. Mic'd Up it's on. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com. Mic'd Up, it's MIK, 'DUP. It's me, Jared, and Lloyd, and whoever else wants to jump on the show. Bryce, you come on there quite a bit. So yeah. We'll have a lot. We have a lot of fun with it. So if you want to watch us and you want to talk baseball, talk sports, have a good time. Mic'd Up on YouTube. That's where you can get us.
You want to talk a little betting too and get a little sick.
No, you may want to fade us, but we talk betting.
Y'all had a nice run during football season.
We did.
That's good. That's awesome. Mikie Mahtook, we appreciate the time, man, so much as well. Make sure you check out his show. And, man, we'll keep things rolling over here. Go 24/7, great baseball coverage as we get ready to head out to Hoover this weekend. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll catch you next time.
I appreciate it, dude.
Yes, sir. Catch you next time here on the Go 24/7 podcast.